Let me share with you a surprising fact, though. The fact is this: most of us have been taught to abuse the grace of God. Most of us have been taught to abuse the grace of God. You go, oh, no, who are you talking about? You're talking about them pagans across the street. Who are you talking? I haven't, no. Most of us, that includes us here today, have been taught to abuse the grace of God. We've been taught, 1 John 1:9, it says, if we confess our sins to God, he can always be trusted to forgive us and take our sins away. Now, by the way, that is a beautiful promise. That is a true promise. But oftentimes we love to misapply that verse and to saying that, you know what? It doesn't matter what I do as long as I throw up a little Hail Mary full of grace. You see, we believe that all we have to do is tell God our sin, and that means it's all other. You know, after we tell God our sin, we say, well, you know what? That's over with. That's done with. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can glutton myself all afternoon today, and I just got to throw up in a confession prayer, and everything's cool. I can lust tonight on my phone, and that's so cool. I just got to say 1 John 1:9, and everything's cool. I can be fearful. I can be a liar. I can do all this stuff, but all I have to do is say 1 John 1:9. Some of you this week have lived that out. You have abused grace. Why? Because you sin. You know you're sinning. You know you're doing wrong, and yet all I got to do is 1 John 1:9. Boy, I'm going into church with my head held high, and I am mad, and I am proud. And then after we 1 John 1:9, we love to sing Psalm 103:12 that says, God has removed our sins as far as the east is from the west. So can you realize how easy it is to believe the lie? When you misapply 1 John 1:9, when you sing about Psalm 103:12, it's so easy to believe a lie that, you know what, my sin's not that bad. All it took was a little prayer, and it's all over with. But you know what you're doing? You're forgetting. You're forgetting one of the first things that God revealed about himself in the Bible. You see, the first part of the Bible, I told somebody this week, you got to know the Old Testament. Why? Because it is in the Old Testament that God reveals his heart. Why do we study the ceremonial laws that we don't do anymore? Why do we do some of the study the things that are no longer applicable for us today? Why? Because they show the heart of God. They give the character of God. And guess what God said in Exodus 34:7? He says, I, God, lavish unfailing love to 1,000 generations. I forgive iniquity, rebellion, and sin. But, underline that word but I do not excuse the guilty. You're seeing, yes, 1 John 1:9, praise the Lord. If we confess our sin, God is faithful and just to forgive us our sin. But he does not excuse our guilt.